The heart monitor pulsed steady. Beep, pause, beep, like a metronome marking the rhythm of my restraint. But beneath that quiet cadence, I heard it. The faint rasp of a zipper sliding shut. The kind of sound you'd expect from a duffel bag in an airport lounge, not a hospital room lit by the sterile glow of ceiling fluorescents. I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't flinch. He thought I was asleep. That was his first mistake. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Charles Greeley. I'm 72 years old. And this is what really happened. I was recovering from a cardiac episode. Not a heart attack, exactly. More like a warning shot. A sudden dizziness at my kitchen counter. A numbing in my left hand. Enough to make me sit down. Enough for my daughter to call the ambulance. Enough for the doctors to keep me for observation and poke me with wires like I was more machine than man. The kitchen floor tiles had felt cold that day, even through my socks. I remember staring at the grout lines between them, realizing I'd never paid attention to how crooked they were. Funny what the body notices when it decides to misfire. My daughter, Anna, had been quicker to react than I was. Her voice carried that mix of panic and determination when she dialed emergency services. I told her it was probably just fatigue. She ignored me, thank God. Now, in this room, the white walls reflected every bit of fluorescent light, as if designed to wash all warmth from the place. The smell of antiseptic lingered in my nose. I've always hated hospitals, not because I'm afraid of death, but because too many people here assume you're already halfway there. The pitying glances, the lowered voices, the way a nurse might touch your arm just a second longer than necessary, like they're already practicing goodbye. So I played into it. Let my eyelids droop when they entered. Let my breath slow. Let them believe I was weaker than I was. It bought me time. And silence. Two things most people squander. Especially liars. Especially my son-in-law. His name is Travis. 36 years old. Smooth-talking. Always smiling just a second too long. The kind of man who'd call you sir to your face and bet against your survival behind your back. I never trusted him. Not from the first handshake. Too much squeeze in his grip. Too much shine in his teeth. The type of man who laughs louder at his own jokes than anyone else does. But I stayed quiet. For my daughter's sake. For my grandchildren. For peace. Until that night. I'd been in the hospital 4 days. Enough time to get familiar with the rhythm of the ward. The way nurses chatted near the break room around 11 p.m. The squeaky wheel on the gurney they used for bedpans. The elevator ding that echoed down the left hallway, not the right. And the fact that visiting hours ended at 8 p.m. sharp. So when the door clicked open just after midnight, I knew something was off. He didn't turn on the light, just crept in, a silhouette outlined by the glow of the hallway, casting a long shadow across the floor. I heard the scrape of canvas against linoleum, the quiet clunk of metal, a handle maybe. Then that zipper, teeth interlocking, deliberate, slow. He crouched, reached under my bed, slid something beneath it, then paused. I could feel his eyes on me, waiting to see if I'd stir. I didn't. He muttered something under his breath, just a word or two, couldn't catch it. And then he left. Soft steps, door whispering shut behind him. I opened my eyes. The ceiling tiles stared back, pale, perforated, watching. I didn't move right away. Let the adrenaline fade from my fingers. Let my heart calm itself before the monitor betrayed me. Then, slowly, I turned my head, stared at the edge of the bed. There was something beneath it now. I couldn't see what, but I felt the shift in the air. A presence. Not large, but dense, deliberate. The next morning, I played my part. smiled weakly at the nurse, took my pills without complaint, watched the hallway through half-lidded eyes. Travis returned that afternoon, with flowers, yellow lilies, cheerful and just fake enough to fit the occasion. The smell of pollen filled the room too quickly, clashing with the bleach in the air. He stood by the bed, all concern and warmth. "How are you feeling, Charles?" he asked, voice coated in honey. I nodded slowly, let my voice rasp. "Better. Tired." He smiled. "That's good. Rest is important." The way he lingered on the word rest made my skin crawl. He stayed for 10 minutes, just long enough for appearances. His eyes flicked toward the bed only once, but I caught it. Never looked beneath it. Didn't have to. He knew it was there. And he thought I didn't. That was his second mistake. The next shift brought Nurse Elena. Late 20s, sharp eyes, quiet hands. The kind of nurse who noticed if your IV was off by a drop or if your breakfast tray had too much sodium. She checked my vitals, adjusted my pillow, and was halfway out the door when I spoke. "Elena." She turned. I pointed toward the floor. "There's something under the bed." She blinked, then crouched, lifting the blanket edge. A pause, then a slow exhale. "It's a suitcase." "Black?" "Yes." "Can you slide it out?" She hesitated. "Should I call security?" "Not yet. Just bring it here." She rolled it out, low profile, leather corners, silver zipper. No tags. The faint smell of leather mixed with dust reached me. I reached for it. My hands shook, not from weakness, but from restraint. Elena helped set it on the tray table. I didn't open it. Not yet. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. I looked at her. Really looked. Her badge read, Elena Dorsey, RN. A name I recognized. I narrowed my eyes. "Are you June's daughter?" She smiled faintly. "Yes." "June Dorsey, my old secretary from the accounting firm. 30 years ago. She used to call me Mr. G. Dot." "Your mother still working?" I asked. "Retired last year. Said to tell you hi, if I ever met you." I nodded. "She raised you well." She waited, curious. I tapped the suitcase. "Can I trust you?" Elena glanced at the closed door, then nodded. "Yes." "Then I need your help. But first, I need to know what's in this." She opened it. And for a moment, neither of us spoke. It wasn't clothes, wasn't medical supplies. It was paperwork, stacks of it, ledgers, printouts, an old laptop, a thumb drive taped to a folder, all labeled, all dated, all with my name on them. "Elena," I said slowly, "can you take pictures of everything in here?" She nodded. "Use your phone, then zip it shut and slide it back under." She raised an eyebrow. "You don't want to report this?" "Not yet." "Why?" "Because the trap only works if the mouse still thinks the cheese is safe." She didn't smile at that. But she took the photos. Every single sheet. It took 20 minutes. Then she returned the suitcase to its hiding place. We said nothing more. But when she left that night, her eyes met mine, and I knew we were allies. The next evening, Travis visited again. Same smile, same charm. He made small talk, brought a crossword puzzle book, told me he and my daughter were so grateful for everything. I watched him closely. His gaze flicked toward the bed once, just once. That was enough. I let my eyelids droop again, waited until he left, then asked Elena to come back. I handed her a note. "Take this to the front desk tomorrow. Ask for a copy of the security footage. Tell them I lost a gift, something sentimental." She read it. "They'll want a reason. Tell them the truth." "That you're missing something?" That I'm not the one who lost it. Elena didn't ask more. She didn't need to. The next morning, I was wheeled to radiology for a test. When I returned, the suitcase was gone. I checked the space under the bed with my toes. Nothing. Empty. They thought they'd erased the evidence. That was their final mistake. The pills came in a paper cup, just like always. That crinkly wax paper, folded into the nurse's palm, as though it could disguise what was inside. Usually it carried the same lineup: a blood thinner, something for pressure, and that chalky pink tablet I'd grown familiar with, the one that dissolved too quickly if you let it linger. But that night, Elena held the cup in her left hand, the opposite side of her usual. It was subtle, deliberate, and inside the cup, the pill wasn't pink. It was smooth, white, almost polished, a little too perfect, like it had come from a different shelf. "Elena?" I asked, voice rough, carried just enough to reach her, but not the hallway. She leaned closer, her shadow stretching across my sheets in the dimmed light. "This the new sleep aid?" I murmured, rolling the pill in my palm as if testing its weight. Her lips barely moved. "Number, it's a decoy." I froze, let the word hang in the sterile air. Decoy. That meant someone wanted me asleep, or worse. I raised the pill toward my lips, let it sit on my tongue, then let my throat tense, swallowing nothing but air. The trick worked. Old courtroom habits resurfaced, the same way I used to keep mints tucked under my tongue during long trials, when even coughing could sway a jury's perception. Old habits don't die, they hibernate. She handed me the water. Her wrist trembled faintly as she passed the plastic cup. I tilted it, let the water slide into my mouth, swishing the fake swallow. When I lowered the cup, her eyes flicked to the hallway. Her voice dropped into a whisper. "They'll come back tonight," she said. My stomach tightened. "Who?" "I saw your son-in-law," she replied. "He was speaking with someone near the pharmacy door." "Someone in uniform?" She shook her head. "Number lab coat, but not from our floor. Someone I don't recognize." I nodded once, sharp. "Watch him closely. He thinks I'm blind in here." Elena didn't smile. She rarely did. She just slipped out the door the way good nurses do, not a sound, not a trace, her shoes whispering against the linoleum. I spat the pill into a napkin and folded it twice, sliding it under my leg for safekeeping. My chest rose and fell, forcing calm against the racing inside. The lights dimmed to half. The hallway quieted, one machine at a time clicking into its night rhythm. And then, the footsteps, lighter than boots, softer than heels, but paced, careful. I counted the pauses, measured the weight. They weren't nurses. Nurses move with intent, quick, efficient, brisk. These steps were cautious. They belonged to people afraid of being seen. By the echo, I could tell. Not one pair. Two. The door opened with a sigh, hinges whispering like breath. Then silence. I lay still. The first set of feet stopped close, right beside my bed. The second hung back, just beyond the footboard, watching. I could feel them both inhaling my silence, testing it. Travis spoke first. His voice carried the arrogance of someone who thinks whispers can't travel. "He's out. Told you." Another voice answered, low, confident, stripped of empathy. "Then let's not waste time. Where's the bag?" Travis cleared his throat. "It's gone. I grabbed it yesterday." "Gone? And?" "We're good. He didn't touch it. Can't even sit up." The stranger exhaled, sharp through his nose. "You better be sure. That file had signatures. If any of that gets out—" "Relax," Travis cut in. "Charles is a vegetable with a pulse." Their laughter landed like ash in the air, soft but scorching. I didn't move, not an inch, but each word tattooed itself into my memory. Burned deep. The rustle of paper followed, the slap of something soft, maybe leather, maybe a manila folder, against the tray table. The stranger again. Leave this one. Fresh copy. Old man won't know the difference. A zipper sound snapped through the quiet. Shorter this time. A different bag. Then silence. And just before the door side shut again, Travis's voice floated back, smug, certain. We're almost clear. One more week, then we're done. Done with what? The air felt thicker after they left. Not because of the suitcase, because of the lie sitting heavy in the room. The kind that grows roots, the kind that doesn't lift unless someone forces it into the light. I lay there 5 full minutes, counting each tick of the clock above the door. 5 minutes of pretending my heart wasn't pounding against the wires. 5 minutes of letting the adrenaline taper before the machine betrayed me with 2 quick beeps. Then I reached for the call button. My thumb pressed it like a trigger. Elena arrived in less than 30 seconds. Her ponytail swung as she stepped inside, eyes wide, already reading the unease on my face. "They were here?" she asked, voice sharp. I nodded toward the tray table. "Left something." She moved cautiously, as though the object itself might strike. With a quick flick, she unzipped the new suitcase. Inside, more files. But not just mine. These were printed scans, property deeds neatly stacked, account numbers scribbled in columns, invoices from shell companies I'd never heard of, thin paper, heavy lies. One folder stopped me cold. My daughter's maiden name, printed on a trust account. My chest squeezed tighter than any monitor line could track. "Elena," I said, voice low, weighty. "We're dealing with fraud. Massive. Ongoing. I need to know if this room has audio feeds." She frowned, shook her head. "Not unless ordered, and nothing's marked." "Then I'll make it simple," I said. "I need a voice recorder. Something discreet." She hesitated. "I can ask the janitor. He moonlights as a musician. He might have something." "Do it." She nodded once, determination replacing hesitation. Then she vanished into the hall like smoke dispersing. I stayed awake the rest of the night. Didn't touch the papers. Didn't close my eyes. Just replayed their words again and again. Signatures. Trust. Clear in a week. I didn't know the whole plot yet, but I knew the pace. And I was catching up. By morning, Elena slipped back into my room, her scrubs brushing softly against the doorframe. She held a small device, no larger than her thumb. Matte, black, no label. "You press once to record," she whispered, placing it in my palm. "Twice to stop." "Battery?" I asked. 6 hours. I checked. I nodded. My fingers curled around it like it was an artifact. Something priceless. Something dangerous. I slid it under my blanket, taping it to the bottom rail of the bed frame with the kind of precision old accountants know well. Hidden in plain sight. That afternoon, Travis returned. Alone. He brought coffee this time. Cheap foam cup. Steam curling upward like false warmth. He set it carefully on the tray table, right next to the new suitcase. "Still tired, huh?" he asked, with a grin too wide. I kept my eyes half-lidded. Let him think I drifted on the edge of sleep. He chuckled. "You're gonna be just fine, Charles, once this is all behind us." Behind who? He stayed longer this time, pacing, glancing at the door. His nerves betrayed him, even as his mouth stretched into that salesman's smile. Finally, he leaned closer. I felt the brush of his breath near my ear. "You're not gonna remember this," he whispered. "But thanks for everything. Your signature really helped push things through." His hand landed on my arm, not gentle, not loving, just final. The way someone pats a gravestone before walking away. Then he left. I pressed the recorder twice. It clicked. Caught every word. By dinner, I'd memorized his voice, every inflection, every lie folded into his tone. Elena reviewed the audio in the break room, headphones tucked under her hoodie. She listened twice, 3 times. When she returned, her face was pale. "This isn't just theft," she said, gripping the edge of the curtain. "This is elder fraud, identity manipulation. That trust document? They filed something under your name last month. I checked the public access terminal in records." "Anything else?" I asked. She swallowed hard. "The signature. It's forged. But they did it clean. Almost convincing." I stared out the window. The sky was bruised purple, dusk pressing itself against the glass. The kind of color that warns night is near. "Elena," I said softly, "how do you feel about making a few quiet copies?" She nodded without hesitation. "I can scan them into my secure email, save on a flash drive too." "Good." She leaned back against the window, the reflection of her face doubling against the glass. "You're not just letting them hang themselves," she murmured. "You're building the gallows." I turned to her, my voice steady. "I'm building a courtroom. The gallows will come later." That night, they returned again. But this time, every word, every laugh, every breathless lie was captured. From the moment the door creaked, to the rustle of pages, to the confident tones of men who thought I was too drugged to hear. Every plan, every file. And somewhere else in this building, in an empty patient room, another suitcase waited. A twin, planted by Elena, a camera pointed, a trap, and all I had to do was keep still and listen. The overhead light in my room flickered once, just enough to remind me how much of this place was theater. The hum of fluorescent tubes overhead, the rustle of paper gowns, the steady ping of the heart monitor, beating like a conductor's baton marking time. All of it was choreography, meant to signal safety, order, control. But control was an illusion. I'd spent 40 years in tax litigation. I'd built my career on following paper trails, only to prove, again and again, that those trails could be bent. Receipts adjusted, ledgers altered, signatures copied, redated, rewritten. Whole fortunes could vanish in the white space between 2 lines of text. But never in my life did I think that trail would run straight through my hospital bed. Until now. That morning, the nurse didn't even question the small USB drive taped beneath my tray table. She brushed past it the way you brush past a crack in the sidewalk. It didn't belong in a patient's room, but she didn't ask. And I didn't explain. It was Elena's insurance. Backup copy number 2. Another silent safeguard in this growing storm. Inside it, she'd stored everything we had so far. Audio, 2 full nights' worth. Every whisper, every snicker, every careless word Travis and his mystery partner had let slip, thinking I was asleep. Scans, page after page of the files hidden in the suitcase. Every ledger, every fraudulent deed, every fake authorization tucked into a folder bearing my name. And footage from the empty recovery room where we had staged our little magic trick, where a decoy suitcase sat tucked beneath a bed in the far corner, indistinguishable from the one Travis thought he'd hidden under mine. Only difference? That one had a silent camera, angled perfectly from the mount on an oxygen tank. Travis wouldn't know the difference. He'd come for the case. He always would. And when he did, the footage would speak louder than I ever could. "Mr. Greeley," the nurse said cheerfully, fluffing my pillow. Her voice carried that professional calm, the kind designed to convince patients that all was normal. "Discharge is still scheduled for Thursday. Doctor says your vitals are holding steady." I gave a slow nod. let my eyelids flutter, as though exhaustion pulled them shut. "That's good," I murmured. She smiled, thinking she was watching a man on the road to recovery. But I wasn't trying to recover. I was trying to expose. Around noon, Elena returned. Her face was neutral, but her eyes carried something. A flicker. Urgency hidden in restraint. She slid a manila envelope onto my lap, leaning just close enough that the motion looked routine to anyone passing the open door. "From hospital records," she whispered. "Copies of your patient file, including one signed consent form that wasn't yours." I froze. My breath caught before my chest reminded me to keep breathing. She opened the envelope and spread the papers out like cards in a losing hand. And there it was. My name, my handwriting, my looping capital G, curling at the bottom in the same way it always had since law school. Except I hadn't signed a damn thing since the night the paramedics brought me in. The date stamped at the top was 2 days prior. "Elena," I said slowly, each word scraping out of me. "This signature?" She nodded grimly. "We ran it through a comparison tool. It's synthetic. AI processed from prior tax filings. They pulled samples of your old returns and built a mimic." A chill spread through my chest, colder than any IV drip, sharper than the pinch of betrayal that crawled up my spine. "They're not just stealing," I whispered. "They're laundering my identity." Her eyes didn't waver. "And they're using hospital paperwork to do it." I pressed 2 fingers to my temple, as though I could squeeze the fury into order. Then I reached for the nurse call button. "Get me the attending," I said. Her brows lifted. "You sure?" I nodded once. "We're past listening. It's time to build the case." 20 minutes later, Dr. Hamid entered the room. Mid-40s, tall, with the calm presence of a man who'd spent too many years mediating between patients' fears and their families' denial. His voice was gentle, but cautious. "Charles," he said, "what's this about missing items?" I motioned toward Elena. She handed him the forged copy. He read it carefully. His brow tightened with each line. When he looked up, his eyes were sharper. "Where did you get this?" "That's my question," I said. "That form was never signed by me, yet it's in your system, attached to a treatment authorization, likely processed internally." He looked at Elena, then back to me, his lips pressed thin. Finally, he pulled a chair closer and sat down beside my bed. "I'll need to speak to records," he said cautiously, "and pull the surveillance logs from that day." "Do that," I told him, "and while you're at it, check the check-in time for my son-in-law that afternoon. He was here." Hamid stood, sliding the form back into its envelope like it was evidence in a trial. "I'll look into it." He paused at the door. His eyes lingered on me. "Charles, why come to me now?" I met his gaze steadily. "Because the crime started with paperwork," I said, "and I need the hospital to see it before the police do." By evening, a folded slip of paper arrived at my bedside. Dr. Hamid wanted to meet privately. Elena wheeled me to a side office tucked near the cardiac wing. The room smelled faintly of antiseptic and printer ink. Hamid closed the door behind us, turned the lock, then slid a single printed sheet across the desk toward me. "Access logs confirm your son-in-law logged into the internal patient portal using a guest badge that wasn't assigned to him. He entered through a back hallway with a nurse's override code. That badge number belongs to someone currently on vacation." I exhaled, slow and heavy. Was it reported stolen? He shook his head. "Number likely cloned." I nodded once, slow, precise. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. My eyes dropped to the manila envelope still sitting in his hands, the forged signature staring back at me in familiar loops. "Protect this copy," I said. Don't confront him. Just keep it safe. Hamid exhaled, long. You're baiting a trap. I met his eyes, steady. No, doctor, I said. I'm holding a mirror. What walks into it is their choice. The next morning, Travis returned. Earlier than usual. This time, his usual grin was gone. His eyes were sharp, watchful. Hey, he said casually, his voice too light. You look more awake today. I let my head tilt just enough for a sleepy nod. His gaze scanned the room, sweeping like a scanner. Then it landed on the corner. The bag was gone. He froze for half a beat, then masked it with motion. He walked slowly to the wall-mounted cupboard near the foot of my bed. Opened it. Pretended to fumble for tissues. He wasn't looking for tissues. He was looking for the suitcase. It wasn't there. Of course it wasn't. That one was already sitting in the decoy room, waiting for his greedy hands. He tapped his foot, a restless rhythm, then stepped back toward the bed. You sure you're feeling okay? He asked. I rasped a single word. Tired. He smiled, but his eyes didn't move. They stayed tight, calculating. Then he leaned closer. You ever get dreams in here, Charles? Strange ones? I didn't answer. He leaned closer still, his breath damp against my cheek. Dreams where people come into the room, say stuff, do things? Still nothing. I let silence do the talking. He exhaled, long, frustrated. Never mind. He stood, straightened his jacket. I'll let you rest, he said. But just before he walked out, he stopped, tilted his chin toward the ceiling, looked directly at the mounted camera, and smiled. That was his tell. He was planning something. Elena returned an hour later. She moved quickly, eyes flicking to the door as she whispered. He noticed the decoys missing. Let him, I said. I think he's going to replace it. Good. I slid the recorder into her hand. Give this to your uncle, the detective. Her eyes widened. You sure? I nodded. He needs a head start. Tell him to expect a second drop, and make sure the decoy room is still rolling. She tucked it into her pocket. Then she left. And I closed my eyes. The next move belonged to Travis. All I had to do was wait. The clock on the far wall ticked louder than usual. Each second echoed in the quiet, like a countdown. Not a countdown to my recovery. Not a countdown to fresh air, freedom, or discharge papers. But to something else. Something tighter, closer. Measured not in heartbeats, but in missteps. And Travis was about to take one. That evening, across the hall, the decoy suite sat dimly lit. A standard recovery room, beige curtains drawn, the faint antiseptic smell lingering in the air, and one bed stripped neatly, as though waiting for its next patient. But tucked beneath that bed, just barely visible if you knew where to look, was the decoy suitcase. The twin. Its leather corners reflected the faintest glow from the oxygen tank mount. From that same mount, angled perfectly toward the handle, a camera blinked red. Recording, waiting, watching. Elena had confirmed it herself before her shift. She moved quietly, efficiently, hands adjusting the mount like she was fixing tubing, not setting a trap. Motion sensors set, she whispered. Audio channels open. The moment he touches it, we get everything. I studied her face. No tremor, no hesitation, but I caught the way her jaw tightened. And the audio file from yesterday? I asked. Already uploaded to the shared drive my uncle created, she said. Time-stamped, locked, it's safe. I breathed slow, steady, letting my chest rise and fall in a rhythm that hid the storm beneath. Now, I murmured, we just wait. But waiting in a hospital isn't like waiting anywhere else. Time crawls between 4 drips and lab checks. Machines whisper in steady cycles, pretending at permanence. The air sits heavy, not just with bleach and recycled oxygen, but with the weight of things unspoken. Nurses move in predictable patterns. Push, chart, check, repeat. But suspicion doesn't move like that. Suspicion writhes. It hides in corners, in shadows, in the spaces between footsteps. It waits, the same way we waited. At exactly 10:47 p.m., it happened. The elevator ding carried faintly down the corridor. Too late for visitors. Too early for shift change. My eyes stayed closed, but my ears sharpened. I counted the steps. 1, 2, 3. 3 sets. Not nurses. Their shoes made sharper sounds. Not orderlies. Their strides were heavier. These were quieter, smoother, measured, intentional. Then came the soft rattle of a door handle. The decoy room. My pulse didn't spike, not outwardly. But I knew. He was in. And he hadn't come alone. Later, when the footage was reviewed, the details unfolded like a confession. A woman's voice, younger, tense, layered with nerves, not Alina's. She called him T, and he called her safe. She whispered that this felt risky. He answered with the kind of arrogance only a liar carries. It's just a sick old man. The camera captured him crouching, bending beneath the bed. His hand curled around the handle. The suitcase resisted, just enough. We'd rigged it with a small latch, nothing more than an inconvenience. But it forced him to tug, forced him to angle his body perfectly toward the lens, enough to give us everything. His face, her hands, the zip code. Inside the case there were no ledgers, no trusts, no forged signatures. Instead, blank pages, a GPS tracker, and on top, a single printed sheet. Property of Federal Investigation Unit. Do not remove. They both froze. Her gasp cracked the silence. His curse followed, bitter, sharp. Then he slammed the lid shut. "Let's go," he snapped, voice cutting through the audio feed. And just like that, they bolted. That alone might have been enough. Enough to prove theft. Enough to prove intent. But it was what happened next that sealed it. Because I didn't expect them to come to me. But they did. 20 minutes later, my door burst open. No knock, no pause, just force. Travis stormed in, his face flushed, his movements jagged. Behind him, the same young woman clung to the frame, wide-eyed and rattled. "Where is it?" he hissed. I blinked, slow, heavy, as though waking from the edges of a medicated haze. "Where's what?" I rasped. "The bag," he growled, stepping closer. "The one you moved." I blinked again, slower this time, letting confusion hang on my face. "I think—" I let my voice drag. "You have me confused." He stepped closer. The edge in his eyes sharpened. "You think this is a game? You're not walking out of here with anything." I didn't flinch. Instead, I shifted my gaze past him. "Elena," I said gently. My voice calm, my eyes never leaving his. "Can you get security?" He turned and saw her. She was standing in the doorway, badge already in her hand, phone already recording. The girl behind him panicked. "Travis!" "Shut up!" he snapped without looking at her. But it was too late. Because the nurse behind Elena wasn't a nurse at all. She was a detective. Plain clothes, arms crossed, watching him the way a cat watches a trembling bird. "You've been busy," she said calmly. Travis froze. The detective stepped forward, slow, deliberate. "This room is being monitored. Has been for the past 48 hours. And the moment you crossed into it, you violated federal privacy law. Again. His jaw tightened. You can't prove. Oh, she cut him off smoothly. We can. You left prints on a federal seal. That's obstruction. You logged into a terminal using a stolen badge. That's impersonation. You forged a signature on elder care documents. That's felony fraud. Her tone never rose. It didn't need to. Each word landed like a gavel strike. Travis took a step back, but the room shrank around him. You've got nothing, he muttered, clinging to the last defense liars always reach for. Elena raised her hand. In it, the USB glinted faintly under the hospital light. Actually, she said evenly, he's got everything. She handed it over. The detective pocketed it without looking away from Travis. And now, she said, so do we. The girl behind him broke. Her face crumpled. Tears spilled. She whispered his name like a plea. But Travis. Travis's fists just clenched. He turned his eyes on me, stared, not with guilt, not with regret, but with fear. Because for the first time, the balance had shifted. For the first time, I wasn't the one lying helpless in a hospital bed. He was. Mr. Greeley, the detective said, her voice steady, professional. We'll escort them out and begin processing. You'll receive a case number and subpoena by morning. I gave a single nod. Travis didn't say another word. They pulled him toward the door. The girl followed, her sobs echoing faintly against the hallway walls. And then the door closed, sealed shut behind them. Only then did I exhale. The stillness afterward wasn't clinical. It wasn't staged. It wasn't the silence of machines pretending at calm. It was real. The kind that only comes when truth is finally dragged into the light. Elena sat down beside me, her hand brushing my wrist gently. You okay? She asked. No, I admitted. The word came out heavier than I intended. But I will be. She smiled faintly. Relief flickered across her features. Your discharge is tomorrow, she said softly. I nodded. Make sure they seal my file. We already did, she assured me. I turned my head slightly toward her. Elena? Yeah? Tell your uncle I want to testify. In person. Her eyes widened. You sure? I breathed deep. Let the weight of it settle. They thought the old man in the bed was the easiest target. She grinned. And now? I let my lips curl into something between a smile and a promise. Now they'll remember me as the man who built the whole trap without standing up. Once. The discharge papers came in a thick folder, bound with a red plastic band that squeaked faintly as it stretched across the cardboard edges. The folder was delivered by a nurse I didn't recognize. Not Elena. This one was younger. Too young, maybe. Her hands trembled when she held the clipboard, the pen clattering once against the metal clip. She smelled faintly of lavender lotion, the kind someone wears to mask nerves. Her eyes flicked between me and the hallway, as though she expected something to go wrong. She didn't know, but I did. Inside that folder wasn't just a neat packet of medical summaries. It wasn't just a tidy checklist of follow-ups and prescriptions. It was a blade disguised as a bandage. Mr. Greeley, she said softly, voice catching at the edges. You'll need to sign here before we remove your IV and prepare your chair. I took the pen slowly. My fingers curled stiffly around it, foreign after days of enforced stillness. The pen's barrel felt cold, hard, my grip weaker than I wanted it to look. Then I paused. Would you mind, I asked carefully, bringing in Nurse Elena for this part? She blinked at me, startled. Is something wrong? I let the faintest smile crease my face. Just a personal request. I'd feel more comfortable. She nodded quickly, grateful for direction, and hurried out. Less than a minute later, Elena walked in. Her steps were steady, practiced. Scrubs crisp, her stethoscope looped around her neck the same way it always was. She filled the room with competence, grounding me in a way no monitor or medication ever could. Her eyes went straight to the folder on my lap. "It's in there?" she asked quietly. I tapped the top corner. Final trap. Inside that packet, buried between release forms and medication lists, was something no hospital clerk had written. A subpoena, official, court-sealed, and beside it, a signed confession. Not mine, Travis's. It had arrived that morning, hand-delivered with the same efficiency con men always underestimate in federal agents. Travis had cracked. Of course he had. Men like him always do. Their arrogance only lasts as long as the silence. Once the silence breaks, once the room gets too quiet, once the walls lean in, once the tape recorder clicks, they collapse. He gave them everything. Names, bank accounts, shell companies, every signature he'd forged, every LLC he'd spun like cobwebs to siphon my retirement trust dry. And more. He handed over a 2-minute recording from his own phone, detailing the scam in his own words. Proof that this wasn't chance, or desperation, or a misunderstanding. It was deliberate, engineered, predatory. He thought confessing would save him. He thought leniency might still be a card worth playing. But he didn't know I'd already buried him 3 layers deep. Elena flipped through the folder. When she reached the back and saw the court notice, her brows arched high. "They scheduled the hearing already?" "Monday," I said evenly. "Expedited fraud hearing. Judge Varela, civil and criminal." "Are you going to testify in person?" "Yes." Her eyes softened. "Your daughter?" "She'll be there," I said calmly. My voice didn't waver. "And she'll finally hear what he did in her name." The courtroom was smaller than I remembered. Wood polished to a sheen, padded chairs lined in rows. The faint smell of old paper and cleaner mingled with something heavier. Anticipation. Overhead, a single fluorescent light buzzed faintly whenever anyone leaned too close to the mic. I wheeled myself in wearing a navy suit I hadn't touched since my wife's funeral. The fabric was stiff, shoulders too broad for me now, but it felt right. It felt like armor. Elena walked beside me, silent, steady. Elena sat 2 rows behind the defense bench. Her posture was stiff, her hands clasped so tight the knuckles were pale. Her eyes stayed down. She didn't look at me. Not yet. At the defendant's table, Travis sat in a beige county-issued shirt. His face was pale, drained, hollow. He looked smaller, as though someone had drained all the charm and left him husk-like. Charisma gone. Skin stretched over regret. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Except me. I sat tall. My name was called. I rolled forward. The clerk swore me in. "Please state your name for the record." "Charles Greeley." "Your relationship to the defendant?" I didn't look at the clerk. I looked directly at Travis. "My son-in-law." "Your statement, Mr. Greeley?" I unfolded the paper resting in my lap. But I didn't read from it. I looked at the judge, then at my daughter. "I have spent 40 years ensuring people were held accountable for what they signed, what they hid, and what they stole," I began. "I never thought the theft would come from my own family. But it did. And I let it go. At first. I stayed silent. Because I believed loyalty meant looking the other way." I turned back to Travis. His eyes flickered, down, then up, then away. "You made me question that. You used my name, my health, my history. You tried to rewrite my legacy while I was still breathing. You thought the wires in my arms meant weakness. But all they did was steady my hands long enough to watch you hang yourself." Silence spread like a blanket over the courtroom. Heavy. Final. The judge nodded once. Elena Dorsey, nurse, witness, and provider of the surveillance footage. Will you approach? She did. She handed over the USB drive, her face calm but resolute. The judge reviewed the case summary, then looked down at Travis. Mr. Walker, based on the evidence submitted, your own statement, and the digital forensics provided by hospital IT staff, you are hereby remanded without bail, pending further criminal proceedings. Your fraud motion is denied. You are to have no contact with Mr. Greeley nor his immediate family. Bailiff? Travis stood too quickly, as though springing from his chair would change the sentence. But it didn't. He froze. His knees buckled faintly. Then he turned toward me. His voice cracked. I was just trying to help us both. I tilted my head, watching him without flinching. You were just trying to help yourself. They cuffed him. They took him. And I didn't look away. Alina hadn't looked at me the entire time. But when the bailiff closed the doors behind Travis, she finally stood. Her heels clicked against the courtroom floor, sharp as punctuation marks. She stopped in front of me. Her eyes were glossy, trembling with something between grief and shame. I didn't know, she whispered. I believe you, I said. I should have. I raised my hand, stopped her words. You have your life, Alina. Live it clean from here. Her lips trembled. Then she bent, slowly, and pressed her lips to my forehead. It was the smallest gesture, but it was enough. The courtroom emptied. Elena wheeled me back through the hallway, past security, past murmuring spectators, and into the spring sunlight. Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted names, questions, headlines forming before the ink. I ignored them. In my lap sat a fresh envelope. Heavy, sealed. My lawyer had sent it that morning. Inside, a reinstated trust. Everything Travis had tried to steal was restored, locked now in an untouchable vault. And by my new instruction, a portion of it had already been funneled into a grant, 5 cities, 5 clinics, each one dedicated to protecting elders from fraud, identity theft, and the quiet predators who target the vulnerable. Elena glanced down at the envelope. You got everything back? She asked softly. Almost. Her brow furrowed. What's missing? I smiled faintly, looking out at the street where the world carried on like nothing had happened. An apology I'll never get, I said, and a few years I let him waste. She looked ahead, silent. Finally she asked, What now? I leaned back in my chair. The sunlight warmed my face. I go home. She nodded. That's good. But inside, I knew something else. This wasn't just about going home. This was about what story would live on after me. Because stories spread. And maybe the next man who hears mine, the next woman lying in a hospital bed, listening to lies creep in under the door. Maybe they won't stay silent. Maybe they'll start recording. Maybe they'll set their own traps. Maybe they'll remember what I proved. You don't need to stand to take a stand. You just need to know when to be still long enough. For the guilty to bury themselves. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.